Hi, this is Mark Kelly from Marillion, and you're listening to Morow.com. It's a simple collection of songs. There is no concept, although it's it's probably one of those things where, you know, when Steve's writing his lyrics, he's going to be writing about what's going on at the time, you know. So it'll either be personal stuff or things that he's, you know, seen in the news or around the world. So you know, you can pretty much divide the album up into two. There's the sort of personal, you know, what's happening in his life, which was all about the breakup of his marriage and him moving out of the family home, and that's the somewhere else stuff, you know. And then the other half is the you know, the stuff that's going on the world stage that we're all aware of, like Iraq and what's happening, you know, in the Middle East, and, you know, the last century for man. That lyric is sort of a pretty bleak prophecy that maybe, you know, we're really going to make a right mess of things, and this is the last century for man. And then there's a voice from the past. That's about poverty, basically, child poverty, and you know, the injustice in the world, and I think it was inspired from the Make Poverty History campaign that was going on last year. So you know, that's pretty much. There's no concept, but that's the sort of themes really that are in the album. You know. We've known Mike Hunter for a good few years now. Now, we first worked with Mike when he was assistant engineer on the Brave album up in Liverpool, and we asked him to come and do a few bits with us then, and he recorded a little known album called The River when he was staying at our studio before he went insane and had to go back home because he was living under the mixing desk in our studio, because about 15 years ago that was, and then we didn't really see Mike for a while, and then he came and worked with us on the Marbles album. Dave Meegan was producing it, but towards the end of the album we asked Mike if he would mix a couple of tracks, which he did, and we liked what he did. You know, we were very pleased with the results, and we discussed with Mike the possibility of him working with us again, and he was very interested. And Mike's very, very musical and very hands-on. He likes to get his sleeves rolled up and get stuck in. He's not a producer that just sits behind the mixing desk and tells you what to do. He'll go and say, "Listen, you know, I've recorded this bit. What do you think?" You know, and he'll play us something that he's recorded, or he'll be saying, "I'm not trying to join the band, but have a listen to this." You know, and there'll be something that he's done, you know, with our music. You know, he'll either do some edits or play, you know, he did like on the Last Century for Man, the song. I don't know if you're at all familiar with it yet, but that started off as a jam, which Mike then edited, and the big orchestral bit in the middle, Mike recorded that pretty much by himself and said, you know, I see the song going a bit like this, what do you think? And we went, sounds fantastic, yeah, we like it. So, you know, so he's very much more involved on, you know, with the music than anybody we've ever worked with before. So that was quite new and interesting for us. You know, I don't. It's really hard for us to say, you know, from our perspective, how much he's changed the sound of the band. But I think the songs are more direct and have got a bit more energy than Marbles. Marbles was quite a sort of slow album, and this album, you know, comes straight in with a bang, you know, from the first song. So, but it's probably sound-wise, it's probably a lot cleaner sounding. Dave's mixes tended to be very layered and very, very dense, and there's lots of stuff going on, whereas Mike tends to be a little bit more sparse, a little bit more, you know, just, you know, doesn't try and put as much as possible on, you know, which was always Dave's approach. It's like, yeah, okay, we can get another overdub in there somewhere, you know. Whereas you know, Mike's approach is like, no, that's it, you know, that's all it needs, you know. we always tend to have bits and pieces left over, from previous sessions that sometimes get used. It's a bit different this time because Faith was recorded after the Marble session, but was written during the Marble session, and we had that song for a couple of years before we put it on this album, and it was one of those songs where it didn't really fit on the Marbles album, we thought, so we didn't use it, but we always thought it was a good song. And when we were coming up with which songs to include on this one, because we'd actually recorded about 18 songs altogether. It's the first time we've ever done this, but we said, okay, we had all these songs, we recorded them, and then said, okay, which ones do we want to put on the album? And the 9 songs we chose, we thought it all ended. The ending of the album was quite a bleak ending, and it was quite a sort of negative finish, with it ending with "Last Century for Man." We thought we need something to give it a bit of a lift at the end, something to leave people feeling a bit positive. So then we said, well, Faith would be good for that. So that's why that ended up being the last song. A bit like on Brave, which is why I said Brave. It was in my mind. Finishing with Made Again, it had the same, did a similar job, a little bit of optimism at the end rather than being, totally suicidal, Well, it's funny. It's funny, with music. I tend to approach the music as a separate thing from the words. I'll just come up with the music. Like I'm thinking of the song "A Voice from the Past." That was a sort of like a piano-based piece of music, and it was quite had a lot of serenity about it. That's why I was thinking of that when you said that, and I didn't imagine it having the sort of lyric that Steve sang on it, and Mike Hunter really liked it. So this is a really nice piece of music, and he said we could just use it as an instrumental, and it's a short instrumental, and then one evening we're at the studio, and we're just sort of playing, and Mike said to me, just play that piano thing, and I started playing it, and Steve started singing those words on it, and it completely changed the whole mood of it, and it became something completely different. And that, A Voice from the Past is all about, child poverty and quite a dark and serious subject. And for me, that's actually my favourite song on the album. But it doesn't sound serene anymore. It sounds really sad now. Well, I think it's just somewhere else, isn't it? It's the idea of looking somewhere else, and the sort of tourist thing, being away from home, being somewhere else, and with our album covers, Carl Glover designed that cover, and he designed Marbles and quite a few of the previous ones. All we did was we told him what we planned to call the album. And he then goes away and tries to come up with something visually that works, And he had about 10 ideas that some of us liked and some of us didn't. And eventually, we had a meeting and we said we need to decide what's going to be the cover. And this always happens with us. There was always, arguments, and everybody's like, some people love it, some people hate it, that sort of thing. But when we get the right thing, everybody says, yeah, that's it, And that's what happened, He showed us the telescope image. In fact, no, what happened was Steve was with Carl, and they were in a lift, an elevator, and there was a picture on the wall, and it was of one of those telescopes. And Steve said, we could do something like that. And then Carl said, I've got this photograph I took when I was on, abroad somewhere, and it was almost exactly the same. And he said, what about this? And we said, that's it, that's the one. So, but we've seen, after we decided that, and we published it on our website, some people pointed out there's a Weather Report album. Have you heard of Weather Report? Yeah, they're sort of old jazz rock sort of band. Some sort of box set collection that they did. Anyway, it's almost identical, and they were just about to release it, and we're like, what are we going to do? You know, because that was just perfect. And then there's this other album that's being released, and it's almost the same. You know. Anyway, in the end, we just said, doesn't matter. We like it. We're going to use it. You know, we're not copying them. It was a coincidence. So there you go.